Doncic, and how important is it to make him work defensively as far as running him through a lot of actions, especially late in a game when he's logged heavy minutes like that?
Everybody actually knows when they up. Everybody actually knows. Then they say Suns and 6. Mavs and 7.
God damn, Jimmy.
DJ Khaled, Mavs and 7.
The Phoenix Suns just had one of the worst collapses of my entire life, especially given the circumstances. Chris Paul, man, where do I even start? 3 years ago, I made a video calling Chris Paul the most underachieving point guard of all time. And since that exact moment, he's given me so much more content to prove that exact point. Now, at that time, Chris had flamed out with 3 straight teams, failing to make the finals with 2 of them that actually had championship aspirations. And then he joins Phoenix. I give him much credit for this, but I also use it to his detriment to some extent. He immediately turns them into a championship contender and further solidifies my point that he's really an underachiever when you need him most. I want people to really understand exactly what I mean when I say underachiever. When I made that video 3 years ago, I vividly remember people commenting, how is he an underachiever if he's 6 feet tall, carrying these teams past their limits? If anything, he overachieved, all this stuff. And all those people, you're precisely missing the point. It's not just Chris Paul, it's all great players. Once you reach that certain level of stardom, the celebrations for simply maintaining that status with accolades and stuff, that all ceases. You quickly get thrusted into how much did you maximize your window of greatness on the highest level, and all great players went through it. LeBron got championship expectations 4 years into the league after coming out of high school. Giannis, he went from being this player that we admire with his story and all this to being, okay, you won these MVPs and all this. Are you ever going to win it all? Like, that's the expectations that come with the status, and it's actually a symbol of respect. Chris Paul has been an underachiever for that exact reason. What does it mean to underachieve? To do less well than expected. He's done that consistently for his career. People don't talk about this enough because it's not a blown 2-0 lead or a blown 3-1 lead. But if you've been on my channel long enough, you know this is my favorite example to use when talking about Chris Paul's shortcomings. The 2014 semifinals. Fun fact, I used to be a Clippers fan. I was big on the Lob City stuff. It won me over. I love that moment. I was a Clippers fan in high school. I'm not going to lie to you. One of my good homies, he was an OKC fan. So this series, it hits a little different for me. That's why I always talk about it. 2014 in the semifinals. The series is tied 2 games apiece. Chris Paul is playing great up until that point. Game 5 in OKC, Chris Paul hits what looks to be the dagger with 49 seconds remaining. This man's highs are so extremely high, but the lows, they're so much lower. I've never seen something like this in my life. He follows that shot up with literally 2 of the worst plays of his entire career. By far, 2 of the worst plays. Then the following season, he comes out and dethrones the champion Spurs, a team that just killed him a few years back and destroyed and dismantled Miami and sent LeBron ass to Cleveland. He beats that team in 7 with the game-winning shot. Then a reoccurring hamstring injury followed by a blown 3-1 lead. Then he goes to Houston, and again, bro, the highs are in heaven. The team chemistry looks amazing. Every team he goes to, the chemistry looks like impeccable. They're playing great. They get up 3-2 against Golden State. He's shimmying all this. And his hamstring gets hurt again, and he missed the last 2 games. And to me, that forced them to lose a championship, possibly. Then last year, it literally felt like the year of Chris Paul. Like, in every single way, it felt like the year of Chris Paul. LeBron and AD, they basically limp and come into the playoffs injured, while Chris Paul gets injured annually, so that kind of bought them some time and allowed them to smoothly get past the Lakers. Then he gets his health back and has the greatest series of his career against Denver. This man was like going crazy against Jokic without Jamal Murray. Again, the stars align perfectly. No Jamal Murray, so that's his opportunity. Then he plays the Clippers without Kawhi, and we know that was a blessing because Chris Paul caught COVID and he had to miss 2 games. Then he plays the greatest game of his career to actually send him to the finals. I feel like collectively, we were all happy for him. Like, oh man, Chris Paul dapping up Lil Wayne, his man from New Orleans. He playing great. He's actually in the finals. He gonna do this thing. Plays great in the first 2 games against Milwaukee, but then per usual, he oddly fizzles out when you need him most. I wasn't mad about game 3 because obviously Milwaukee was back in front of their home crowd and they were desperate, so they played that way and they won that game commandingly. I understand that. But game 4, a chance to really step on their neck and go up 3-1, Chris Paul didn't show up, bro. He had 2 points in the first half. 2 points. Like, it was just embarrassing. And then he followed that up by having the game-losing turnover. And what made that even worse is that, if y'all remember, Devin Booker played great. He dropped 42. He just didn't have his running mate with him because he never showed up. So we know how that story ends. And then this year, like I said, bro, the highs are so damn high. Like, bro, they're in heaven, like I said. They won 64 games, bro. 64 games, the most they've ever won. Every team Chris Paul has played on for more than 1 year. So basically, excluding that 1 year tour he had in OKC, every team, they've won their most games with Chris Paul. So he sets the bar ridiculously high. Then he plays against New Orleans and closes them out probably with the second best game of his playoff career. 2 of his best playoff games came against his 2 old teams. That's crazy. Then he plays against Dallas and the high continues. They win by an average margin of 13 points in the first 2 games. Up until that point, Chris Paul has scored more than his season average, which was 15 points per game. He scored more than his season average in 7 out of the 8 playoff games that he played. And the one that he didn't, trust me, I'm going to touch on that game as well. So it's safe to say up until that point, he was playing playoff basketball up in his production in the biggest moments. But then after game 2 against Dallas, he never did it again. Game 4, he had one of the most epic collapses of his entire career. And I do feel like that game was extremely over-repped. But for Chris Paul, his resume doesn't allow me to give him any benefit of the doubt because it's so damn continuous. Bro, you know how we call Klay Thompson Game 6 Klay in a positive way, like he always plays great and plays up to that level in Game 6. You can legitimately call Chris Paul Game 4 Chris in these last 4 Game 4s that he's actually played because all of them have been literally terrible. Game 4 against the Clippers last year in the Western Conference Finals. I'm not going to trash him too much for it because he was coming back from COVID and I understand that, but he played terrible. Game 4 against Milwaukee, like I said, he had 2 points in the first half and he had the game-losing turnover. Game 4 against New Orleans this year, he had 4 points without Devin Booker. And then game 4 against Dallas this year, he fouled out. And we know it was just hard to look at. 3 out of these 4 game 4s that he actually played terrible in, they were game 4s that could have possibly tied the series up 2 games apiece. We know this man has blown 5 2-0 leads, and now you kind of understand why. Games 5 through 7 against Dallas, it just looked like he checked out. Now, I know they said he had a quad injury, and if he did, he did, bro. But he played terrible. Like, up until that point, up until game 2 against Dallas when they were leading 2-0, he was shooting 14 times a game in the playoffs. And me personally, he's such a good shot maker. I would want him to shoot 17 to 20. That's how good he is with shooting shots in the mid-range threes, all that. He's that efficient. But he was shooting 14 times a game. In the last 3 games, bro, he cut that down to 7. He cut it in half. He was averaging 3 points in the first half. 3 points from a player that can shoot like Chris Paul. In game 7, he was a minus 39. This is game 7. Now, I know I just dug into Chris Paul, but this video isn't solely about Chris Paul, but he's the main character because obviously this has been a reoccurring theme with every team he's been on. But they all play terrible collectively, all of them. Devin Booker, a player I still really love. Like, I love the trash talking, I love the feistiness, I love all that. I love the competitive nature, I love D-Book, I made his MVP case, all that. But he comes out and he mocks Luka Doncic about the Luka special, laying on the ground, acting like he's Luka, looking at Chris Paul when they asked about his defense, targeting him, all this. But then in the final 2 games, he goes 9 for 31 and he has 12 turnovers when it matters most. I love you, D-Book, but you look real front runner-ish when you do that. Nikola Jokic, he was the only player to average more first quarter points than Devin Booker in these playoffs. Book, he shoots out of a cannon in every first quarter he plays, hitting all these crazy shots, talking trash, all this. In game 7, he went 0 for 7 in the first half, not the first quarter, the first half. Then DeAndre Ayton. This man was complaining about a max contract, and I said this last year. It's a tricky situation because you know you don't want to lose him for nothing because he does bring value, but he's not who or what you thought you were getting with the first overall pick at all. Like, he hasn't been that at all. The average height of the Dallas Mavericks starting lineup, believe it or not, it was 6'5". They were starting 4 players that were under 6'8". That's not extremely abnormal in today's NBA, but I'm just trying to set the foundation for a player that's 7 feet asking for a max contract. In the first quarter in game 7, Dallas out-rebounded Phoenix by 7 boards, and most of that was because of their 7-footer only having 2 boards in 10 minutes while Luka Doncic had 4 times that. The reason I struggle to like Kristaps Porzingis at times, the reason I knew Bobo wouldn't work out, the reason I'm not a fan of DeAndre Ayton is because I just cringe at big guys that don't play to their height at all. Like, they don't even use it. I laugh at the Utah Jazz, and sometimes I laugh at Rudy Gobert. But one thing I can't take from Rudy, bro, he plays 7 feet tall. Sometimes it plays to his detriment defensively, but he plays to his height. He's not the most skilled player, but he plays 7 feet tall. Bro, DeAndre Ayton, if you believe it or not, this playoffs, he's only had 10 boards in 4 out of the 13 playoff games he played. Jonas Valanciunas destroyed him on the glass. Against New Orleans, he had 1 outbreak rebounding game in game 3, I believe. But other than that, he got out-rebounded by 27 boards by 1 man. Even before game 7 when he got benched, Luka Doncic was eating him up on the glass in games 1 through 6. So it was still happening to a player that he's supposed to out-rebound. Also, in 7 out of the 13 games that he played in the playoffs this year, he didn't even have a block. Like, he's 7 feet tall and he's playing that many minutes without a block. So it may sound a little bit harsh, but I can understand why Phoenix, they're hesitant to give a player a max contract that, one, offensively, I mean, he's grown his bag a little bit, but 80% of his field goals are assisted on. So he's kind of being force-fed by Chris Paul or Devin Booker. Defensively, it's like he doesn't even exist as a rim protector because he doesn't block any shots. And rebounds, is 7 foot tall, but he's not even getting you double-digit boards in most of your playoff games. In conclusion, Chris Paul will be 38 years old next season. DeAndre Ayton, some desperate team is going to offer him a crazy, stupid max contract that he will be dumb to decline. And the West, as I explained in my last video, it's only getting tougher. The Suns had 2 golden opportunities to seize in these last 2 years. And me personally, with the DeAndre Ayton situation, I think he's gone. Chris Paul aging, I think it's over. Like, I don't think they're going to get back to the top like they were in these last 2 years, especially if they lose Ayton. So that's tough, man. They fumbled it. If you guys like this video, make sure you like this video. Chris Paul, I still give you the point guard claim. Some people took it away. Some people say I can't call you the god of anything but choking, whatever. I still feel like you're the greatest natural point guard I've ever watched live. So I'm not going to take that away from you. You just fold, bro. You just fold. Like, that's just what it is. Follow my social media sites. Turn on post notifications. Do all that great stuff, guys. And until next time, as always, stay tuned.